Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to our webinar the day before Veterans Day, covering veterans helper org scams. We're going to use the term helper, quotation marks, the entire webinar. Today, what we're talking about are how certain enterprises are using veterans benefits, government veterans benefits, to ensnare veterans into schemes and contracts and things that are not good for the veterans. My name is Shauna Reeves. I'm Director of Elder Abuse Prevention at the Institute on Aging. You'll hear about our wonderful panelists in a moment. I also wanted to give many thanks to my colleagues at the Institute on Aging. First, Catlin Morgan, who runs our education department. Thank you for putting on this webinar for us, Catlin, and for offering CEs to the participants. I also want to thank Tamri Hadani, our Associate Director of Elder Abuse Prevention at the Institute on Aging. The Veterans Benefits Protection Project was spearheaded by Tamri 5 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. And we've had a lot of wins and a lot of changes in the scams landscape, which is what we're going to cover today. And Tamri has seen us through all of that. And also Glenn Fishman, without whom I don't think we'd be accomplishing anything. Glenn Fishman is the program coordinator of the Elder Abuse Prevention Program, and he's the reason that this is going off without a hitch. So thanks again to all of you. I'm going to talk briefly about the Veterans Benefits Protection Project and what it can do for you and your communities. Before I do that, I want to get a taste of your knowledge level right now when it comes to pension poaching scams. And I also want to learn a little bit more about you. So if we could launch that first poll. Are you familiar with pension poaching, or have you never heard of pension poaching? And since that's just a one clicker, we can launch the second poll as well. So we want to know about the field you work in. And you can click as many as apply to you. Social worker, case manager, lawyer, advocate, law enforcement, VA. I know a lot of people from the VA signed up for this today. Government. Okay, so there's some overlap there with the other categories. Area agency on aging, regulator, scammer, we always get a few, or other. So, again, click as many as apply. And if I haven't covered you in these categories, you can type in the chat what you do. Yeah, I'm excited because I'm a social worker and I'm seeing that social work won. So we have a lot of social worker care managers, that's 42%, almost half. A lot of lawyers. It disappeared, so I'm going to guess at the rest, but I don't think anyone clicks scammer. We always need to include it though. Oh, there it's back. A lot of law enforcement, lawyers, advocate, and AAAs. I noticed a lot of area agency on aging folks signed up, and I'm really pleased about that. Okay. So I talked about our staff, and now I want to talk about the partners. So the Veterans Benefits Protection Project, like I said, was started 5 years ago, and we did not do it alone. We never could have done it alone. From the get-go, we had really high-powered partners on this project, including the San Francisco Disability and Aging Services, actually our funder, Adult Protective Services, the San Francisco Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program, California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform. California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform has been the front runner when it comes to legislation targeting pension poachers in the state of California. We'll be talking a little bit about that. So they are indispensable. And Prescott Cole, Senior Attorney at Cantor, named our program. Fun fact. The Attorney General's Office of California is also part of the Veterans Benefits Protection Project, and the California Department of Insurance. And I'm probably missing some. was very pleased that for our first meeting, the California Department of Insurance sent 7 people to our meeting. I was very pleased. So we knew we were really onto something. The purpose of the Veterans Benefits Protection Project, we have 3 major goals. One is to educate people about what pension poaching is. So what it looks like, kind of the anatomy of the scam. The purpose of this webinar is to talk about pension poaching, but mainly about what it's evolved into. We started looking at pension poaching that largely looked like insurance agents and attorneys trying to help elders look impoverished on paper so that they would qualify for this means-tested program through the VA, specifically the enhanced part of the pension. Ray will talk to you about this. I'm not so great at this, the aid and attendance portion of the pension. So now what we're seeing, because of some rule changes that happened at the VA in October 2018, and in California, we saw earlier changes because of legislation within our state saying that you could not, that an insurance agent could not make commissions and or otherwise benefit from qualifying a veteran for government benefits. We started seeing changes, and those changes were largely positive, and that we didn't see as much pension poaching happening, at least in the way that we saw it happening earlier. The sale of annuities and putting elders into irrevocable living trusts in order to get them looking poor on paper so they qualify for benefits. So this is not to say that the scam changed. We actually saw the version that we're talking about today early and kind of in parallel to the scams that we focused on. But now what we're seeing is that this version of the scam that we're talking about today has largely taken over. And this version of the scam involves not so much the targeting of high wealth veterans, so folks that need to look like they don't have any money so they can qualify. This is targeting people, veterans who are already poor. And what it's doing is it's promising them home care and assisted living, promising to get them onto this veterans benefit so they can access services, but not telling them the full story. The full story is that if you qualify, you could qualify for free. And if you qualify, you get to control that money that comes to you from the government. It doesn't need to go to a specific home care agency or directly to an assisted living facility. This is the version of pension poaching that we're focusing on today. And this is what the panelists today are experts in and we'll be talking to you about. So I'm getting back to what the Veterans Benefits Protection Project does. We educate on pension poaching scams. Number 2, we try to get people to go to their local county veteran service office. These exist in counties throughout the country. There are places where you can get free advice if you're a veteran or spouse of a veteran, child of a veteran, on how to access your pension. So our goal is to get people there before they get ensnared by the scammers that we're going to hear about. And then our third goal was to help them access resources so that they could get help if they have already been scammed. And that's where our partners come in. California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform has a lawyer referral panel. The AG's office can also take action. The California Department of Insurance also has authority to do that. And so that's where our partners have come in, because we do get people calling us saying, I've been victimized. It's largely how we get information about these scams. And then we like to help them, not just tell them that's too bad, but to actually get them the help that they need. And we've largely been successful in doing that. So those are 3 ways that the Veterans Benefits Protection Project could also help you and your communities. You could replicate what we've done, or you can call us and ask us about it. We're here for you. Even though we're in San Francisco, as I said before, we have a big statewide footprint. And as of today, national, because we have Chantel Smith in the Highway Attorney General's office on our call. It's a great strength in partnership. As I've just said, we couldn't do this alone. We have so many partners in this project. I think I'm looking at my notes here and I already covered it, so it's good. We've been investigating this scam for 13 years. So if there's anyone on this call who is a regulator and who really wants to take this and just help fix it, we'd be really, really grateful for that. And we're very, very here for you as well. We're willing and we're able. It's really frustrating to see something like this go on for 13 years and then see some successes and some changes thanks to rule changes and legislation, but now it's just morphing. So we really want to be a resource for those of you on the call who are possibly thinking of going after some of these groups. Okay, so the way this is going to work today is each speaker is going to have about 10 minutes to talk about what they want to talk about. Our first speaker is going to be Ray Flores, will be talking about the aid and attendance benefit itself. Neil Granger will be talking more about the scheme, both in assisted living and home care. And then Chantel Smith will also be talking about what she's been seeing with these groups, working with home care, and also some of the frustrations that she's had in bringing these groups to justice. And then we'll open it up to you for questions. I think I'll just go ahead and introduce our first guest. After 8 months of the pandemic, I finally sort of learned how to use technology. So I'm actually going to read to you right now Ray Flores's bio. So Ray Flores is, oh, and I just lost it. Ray Flores is MBA, PMP, Executive Director of the San Diego Veterans Coalition. He is a Navy veteran and international business executive with 25 years of experience in managing Department of Defense software and engineering enterprise programs. He's a member of the County of San Diego's Office of Military and Veterans Affairs, and he serves as Executive Director of the San Diego Veterans Coalition, promoting the success of organizations that support and serve active military, duty military and veterans. He promotes collaboration among service providers, advocates on behalf of veterans, and provides leadership that affects local change and serves as a national role model for other communities to emulate. When I found out about Ray, the first thing up in my head was, how do I know this guy? He seems to be the guy when it comes to aid and attendance, explaining it well, and understanding also the scams and schemes going on the ground. I'm very pleased to have Ray with us today. I just want to kick it off too by saying that we learned so much from our local CVSO, County Veteran Service Office. And the last time we had a meeting with them, one of the workers there said something that really, really stuck. She said that when someone comes to her office, or now virtually calls into her office or Zooms with them, she knows right away whether or not they've been targeted by a pension poacher because of how they cut their phone call. So they'll call the CVSO and say, I want to learn about aid and attendance, but they won't mention the actual pension itself. They just mention the aid and attendance. So Ray, if you could explain to us what the aid and attendance benefit is as it relates to pension, and why someone who's calling in who's only focused on aid and attendance might have already been contacted by a pension poacher.
Absolutely, Shauna. Thank you for the excellent introduction. You are a fantastic host and moderator.
Oh, thank you.
So as a member of the County of San Diego's Office of Military and Veterans Affairs, and as the Executive Director of the San Diego Veterans Coalition, I come into regular contact in support and service of the over 1.1 million service-connected residents in the County of San Diego. I also get the opportunity to collaborate, cooperate, and network with my counterparts in their county VSO offices across our nation through the National Association of Counties, or NACO. So that as I learn about issues that affect veterans in Southern California and the solutions to those issues, I can then network with my counterparts in the over 6,000 counties that are members of NACO to get the good word out, to highlight to my counterparts that there's issues like these that are out there, and that there are solutions also, and there's ways to correct that. There's two elements that I'm going to speak to today that are part of the veterans benefits portfolio. There's VA aid and attendance, and there's the housebound benefit that our veterans are eligible for. I'm a meat and potatoes kind of guy, so we're going to start with the bread and butter. And as Shauna said, I'm a Navy veteran, so I'm by the book, kind of black and white, and always by the rules. So our aid and attendance eligibility. Our veterans are eligible for this benefit if they currently receive a VA pension. That's the key there. It's not. It's truly nothing else. Is the veteran eligible, or does the veteran receive a VA pension for a disability rating? If the answer to that question is yes, then the veteran is eligible for either the aid and attendance or the housebound benefit. Not both at the same time, one or the other. For the aid attendants, there's the VA pension. And this is the part where I use the word and. So now the veteran must meet at least one of these following requirements. The veteran needs another person to help the veteran perform daily activities such as bathing, feeding, dressing. Your basic get up, get around, be about, and get ready for our day or end our day, that kind of care. Or the veteran has to stay in bed or spend a significant portion of the day in bed because of illness. Or the veteran is a patient in a nursing home due to the loss of mental or physical abilities related to a disability. Or the veteran's eyesight is limited, even with corrective lenses or glasses, to have only 5/200 vision or less in both eyes, or concentric contraction of the visual field to 5 degrees or less. So our veteran is eligible or receiving a pension, and next is one of the ORs is met. Do they need help on a daily basis, in an assistive manner? Are they required to stay in bed? Do they need to stay in bed for a significant portion of their day? Are they a patient in a nursing home? And do they have limited eyesight? With one of those follow-on criteria is met, the veteran is then eligible to apply for that aid and attendance benefit. There's a number of ways that this can occur. The veteran or the veteran's spouse, sibling, brother, sister, best friend, fellow veteran, or a VSR, hopefully a VSR, one of our county offices, can assist the veteran to fill out the VBA form 21-2680. And that can be done all on their own. Again, it's very straightforward. It's a very straightforward document, but there is a very interesting point when you get to block 32. And block 32 that might be the door that gets cracked open to allow somebody to take advantage of the veteran, and not just to access their aid and attendance benefit. The aid and attendance benefit itself is not a high dollar benefit. It's not a high dollar item. It averages about $150 a month. Now that's on average, and that's across our nation. There's no weighting or scoring for zip code or where you live or population density or cost of living. But it's an avenue to perhaps the veteran's pension itself. So that's one element. That's block 32. And block 32 of Form 2680 essentially asks, are you competent to manage your finances, to manage your pension, and to manage this benefit? If the answer is yes, then the door remains closed. The veteran receives the benefit, manages their financial matters, and the risk profile goes down. The second benefit that I mentioned in my opening remark is the housebound benefits eligibility, or housebound benefit. The veteran may be eligible for this benefit again if the veteran receives a pension and the veteran spends most of their time in their home because of a permanent disability. This is a disability that simply does not go away. So they are housebound. It's an either or situation. Again, the housebound benefit is not, it's right along the same lines in terms of its monetary compensation with aid and attendance. So it's not a high dollar big ticket item, and with the one or the other, there is a separate process for that housebound benefit, but essentially it does come back to the 2680 and block 32. Those that again, meat and potatoes, bread and butter, black and white. Shauna, that is A to Z for us with our veterans and the benefits.
I There's a couple of questions just really quick. Can you repeat the form again, Ray, for somebody that they would have to fill out?
Sure. VBA, that's Victor Bravo Alpha for all those that were in the Coast Guard, 21-2680, 2680. You can Google that online, or you can go to va.gov, and there is a link on the aid and attendance page that you can access to download the form, fill it out yourself, or take it to your primary care physician for that primary care physician to fill it out. There is a medical examination portion of the form that is called out. So even if the veteran is filling out the form themselves, at some point they will need to go to their primary care physician for some of the information that's required in some of the fields.
Ray, thank you so much
Thank
for laying
you.
it out. And thank you, Tammy, for asking that question. So Ray, invariably, I'll give presentations on aid and attendance and scams associated, and some poor soul at the end will say, is aid and attendance a scam? And I'll say, dang it, that's not what I was trying to say. And that's why it's so helpful for you to lay out the bread and butter, as you said, of the scam so that people can understand. And also, I'm glad that you brought up the local county Veterans Service Office, because I don't think we can talk about them enough. That is where veterans can get help for free. Ray, something that comes up again and again, and it's already come up as a question, if a veteran is being asked to pay an organization to help them qualify for aid and attendance, what would you tell that veteran?
I would ask that veteran to place that communication, that dialogue, that relationship into a holding pattern. Stop providing, or at least temporarily cut off the transfer of information, sign nothing,
Okay.
and then reach out to an accredited VSR, hopefully either at a county or at an American Legion, a Disabled American Veterans post, a Veteran of Foreign Wars post, any of another of community or faith-based organizations, to where an accredited VSR. So in California, we have the CAC VSOs. Those are California accredited veteran service representatives. We have the NAC VSO for the national accreditation. And I would start there. That would be part of my conversation. Are you working with somebody who's accredited with the NAC? And if so, okay, just do a quick due diligence and check with a second source.
Great, thank you. And it's my understanding, and I know Neil's going to talk about this a little bit too, but the VA rules are very explicit and clear that you cannot charge a veteran for these the initial filing, even if you are accredited, right?
Correct.
And I think there's some payment can happen if you're a lawyer representing an elder in an appeal, possibly, but in these early stages, you're really not allowed to do that. Yet it's something that we hear again and again. So that's really helpful. So get to the CVSO. One of the questions is, what is a VSR, Veteran Service Rep, I'm assuming?
That's correct.
Okay.
VSR is a Veteran Service Representative.
Great, thank you. Ray, thank you. I want you to be on all of our Zooms now to lay it out like this for our audience. It's really helpful. Another reason I wanted Ray is because you have so many service-connected vets in the San Diego area. I think you said 1.1 million.
We have right now in our system, we have 260,000 veterans that have accessed the VA, the VBA, or one of our other networks so we know there's been a direct touch.
Yeah.
But with the fact that the County of San Diego has over 27 active duty military installations, of every service, we have a very large reserve component, National Guard component. The head count turns into about 1.1 million service connected residents out of the 3.3 million. So a full third of our county residents in one way or another has touched active duty or veteran.
Right, thank you. And I also really appreciate you, because you know about the schemes that we're talking about today too. So you also know the basics of the pension, and you also know what to look out for, and that's really helpful to our audience as well. And we might be asking you more questions as that continues.
It's gone so far as a veteran called me up and said he was having a cup of coffee at Denny's talking with his wife about applying for his VA benefit. And somebody in the next table over turned around and said, "Oh, I can help you do that.
Oh,
It'll only cost you 10%." And he says, "Really? Oh, that sounds wonderful."
No,
And we're like,
no.
go, run.
God. Maybe one of the benefits to being in lockdown right now. I can't go to Denny's as much and get scammed there. Thank you so much, Ray. We're going to move on to Neil, and I'm going to read Neil's bio to you if my computer lets me. Again, thank you, Ray, so much. I think this panel is perfect. So Neil Granger, who I've known for a very long time, and Neil and I have been looking at this scam for 13 years, which is super depressing. But we've been in it for that long. Neil's a 35-year veteran in the life and disability insurance industry. He specializes in consulting and outreach work in the areas of life insurance, annuities, and agent sales practices, especially as they pertain to seniors. Neil has worked on historic cases that have led to significant recovery for victims, including a case that got $38 million and jail time for financial predators. Neil's experience as an independent life agent and general agent, as well as his work with the California Department of Insurance, legislators, and both private and public attorneys, has given him specialized insight into the sales practices used by agents and carriers. Neil holds a bachelor's degree from University of California, Riverside, and his company is Neil Granger Insurance and Annuity Counseling. And Neil, I was thinking about how it was 10 years ago, because I just Googled it. You were quoted in AARP bulletin. I don't remember the exact quote, but you were interviewed by Sid Kirchheimer about pension poaching. And this again was a decade ago. But you've been in this for a long time, following the twists and turns, and you can talk to us a little bit about what happened in 2018. But why don't you, since you've been doing this for so long, give us a little bit of history and background, and also your knowledge of what's going on right now, because things have changed, and this webinar is about the evolution of the scam.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Shauna. God, 10 years, huh? Wow.
It's been 13, but 10 years ago you were.
I remember one of my litigator friends said, "Yeah, these guys keep crawling. They're like cockroaches. They just keep crawling out." So we see the scam kind of evolving over time. And yeah, I think what I'd like to do is just talk a little about the quote unquote helper organization and kind of the overview of what we've seen there. So just as a general definition, when we talk about helper organizations in the context of this, we're talking about commercial enterprises that for profit are benefiting themselves by planning finances or benefits with seniors. So again, it's a way that financial predators have found a way to worm themselves into people's homes and into people's finances. The big goal always with financial predators is to somehow get inside somebody's house and their finances, especially a senior, where they're able to take advantage of vulnerabilities. So what we're seeing now with the helper organizations is a little bit different than where it started before. And that all changed right around October 18th of 2018. So the helper organizations we're seeing now are basically outfits that contact seniors through one way or another. I'll talk about that a little bit. But what they do is they charge their clients for planning a veterans aid and attendance application. In other words, they're, as you know, you cannot be compensated by law for helping someone apply, charging someone to apply for veterans aid. But what these people are doing is they're kind of drawing a line and saying, well, we're not helping them apply. We're just like doing everything up to that point, plus sending them an application, but it's not really applying. This is sort of a disingenuous way to go about that kind of business. We had some experience with that with insurance agents in California who thought they could do that. They kind of found out they couldn't, and I'm hoping someone will help these guys find out they can't. But what they do is, so they set up a pre-planning contract with a client, charging anywhere from, the numbers I've seen, $700 up to $2,500. They'll go to a senior and say, look, we know how to get this benefit for you. We have the knowledge. You can get this benefit, but you need our expertise to help you plan. And so they'll charge the client to create the plan. And at the same time they do that, send them the forms and then say, but on the other hand, if you apply for this and you don't get it, we're not liable for it. So we're going to charge you a couple grand. We're going to, get this plan together for you, and then we're going to show you how to apply, but that you're applying yourself. And if you don't get it, it's not our problem, essentially. So a little bit cynical in my view. So that's the front end of it. The front end of the scam now is that the helper organizations get money from the client at the beginning, but also the thing that we're seeing, and I think Shauna, you could talk about this too, is that we're seeing them skim care dollars on the back end by being care coordinators, things like that. So just kind of a brief history on where these helper organizations have come from and where they are now, obviously. A brief history is prior to October of 2018, the typical helper organization veterans scam that we saw involved typically an insurance agent and an attorney. And what they were doing is they were perpetrating a trust mill on their senior victims. So first of all, two things. What's a trust mill? Well, a trust mill is an enterprise where a victim is convinced that they need a trust in order to protect themselves from the government taking their money or any number of other things. It kind of doesn't matter. But the idea is that these predators would encourage, typically an insurance agent would hold a seminar, encourage these seniors to take out a trust to protect themselves. The attorney then, who was part of the scheme, would write the trust. But the real point of the deal was at the end, the insurance agent who did the original presentation would be tasked by the attorney to deliver and notarize the trust to the victim. And so the whole point of the exercise was to get a list of the victim's assets. Then the insurance agent would go in to have the trust notarized, and they would say, wow, I see you have all this money in passbook savings accounts. That's not a good idea in an irrevocable trust. We should put that into a non-interest bearing account, and would sell them a whole bunch of annuities, insurance products, things like that. So this is how it all started. Before October of 2018, trust mills were typically about selling seniors unnecessary financial products and services by convincing that they needed this trust to protect themselves, to move their assets out of the reach of the government. So that all changed because in October, the VA instituted, like we have in California here with Medi-Cal, a look-back period on asset transfer. And they said, basically, if you transfer assets, we're going to look back on that transfer. And we're going to see if it's been within the last couple of years, we're going to basically, that's going to either be disallowed or subject to penalties. So it kind of took that avenue away from these financial predators to where they had to kind of figure out a new game. And after that date, what we're seeing now are that the helper organizations have adapted their strategy to approaching senior veterans on home care benefits. In other words, they're coming together with them and saying, we can help you figure out a way to use this little known program. I don't know how many times I've heard little known program, but we're going to teach you to use, we're going to help you use this little known program to get these care dollars that the government just has and that you deserve. And so they will work with these veterans and they'll charge them these fees. And then once the application comes in, the care organizations then, so on the front end, they get the dollars from the client for planning. Once the client gets the money, then the helper organizations often will set themselves up as what they call a care coordinator, which means that then they will take a fee for administering the care money to some affiliated organizations that perhaps affiliated that are the caregiver services, who then hire somebody to go out and do the care. So everybody's getting a piece of the action here now.
I think it's also important to note that they'll often just start giving the elder the money right up front and get that home care in there immediately as a form of a no interest loan. Yeah. Which really no one can beat, because I mean, a regular person needs to wait for the VA to make a decision on their application. So they actually will link the elder up with that care, and get it going immediately. And then the elder is expected to pay that back. So
You
yeah.
Thunder, Shauna.
What?
You stole my thunder. I was going
Sorry, I don't even have your notes in front of me. I'm just like,
Yeah,
wait, the loan part, because people are
yeah.
always asking me about the loan part because it's what hooks the elder. So I'm really
Yeah.
sorry to steal your thunder.
Yeah, and the
Carry
more I
on,
look,
Neil Granger.
well, anyway, yeah, so you can see we know each other. Anyway, so again, what we're seeing now is these organizations are, yeah, they're setting themselves up as care coordinators, and they're basically appropriating the money and then disseminating it to their affiliates. So the upside of the asset look back law with VA is we're not seeing that these high wealth veterans, it used to be that predators were really going after high wealth veterans so that they could suck up their money, put it into annuities, and make a bunch of money. But now what we're seeing is that the low wealth veterans are being targeted. So it's 6 of one and a half dozen the other. It's just as bad. So how do they do it? How do these people get this going? Well, one of the things, and this is where the loan comes in, they partner themselves with assisted living facilities. And so what they'll do is, to understand that, you've got an assisted living facility and a helper organization, and the two of them have a symbiotic relationship. The assisted living facility needs to keep their beds full, needs to keep their rooms filled, and the way they have to do that is to find sources of income for their residents. And of course, the helper organizations look at the assisted living facilities as lead generators for them, so they can find their victims, their clients in these assisted living organizations. And so what happens is the helper organization pitches the veteran who's in an assisted living facility saying, look, if you structure your finances properly because you live here and you have this anticipated need for care, then we can include your room and board in some of the expenses that are qualified under this plan to bring your assets down so you qualify. So there's a whole strategy that assisted living facilities use. And in fact, a number of major chains of assisted living facilities on their websites refer people directly to these helper organizations, to one or two of them who I will not mention at this point. But the other part, which Shauna already mentioned, is then once they have the person in the assisted living facility, they have the helper organization who has filled out help them get the application going, and they send the application in, and then the assisted living facility says, I've got this other outfit that will give you an interest-free loan until you get your benefits. So you can stay here at our facility until you get that money. And often they fail to mention that if the person doesn't get the benefit, they're still on the hook for the money. They don't get to walk away from the debt. So that's kind of how the helper organization assisted living facility relationship works as regards the veteran. I know we had with our Veterans Protection Project, we actually had a letter we sent out. I don't know if we've put that in our resources for the webinar, but we used to call it the bully letter, because we sent it out to assisted living facilities in the area saying, if you are part of a scheme on the part of a financial predator, you're allowing these people into your facility to victimize seniors and commit crimes, you are also committing a crime. And we got some pretty interesting phone calls out of that. So just briefly, there's some other mechanisms that before I close, some other mechanisms by which veterans are found, and one is cold calling. They set up a call center. I worked on a case where there was a call in Washington State with the AG up there, where there was a call center set up which was going after senior victims to sell them annuities and reverse mortgages. So that's the old kind of time-tested way to do it. Seminars used to be the way. COVID kind of put an end to seminars. The other thing, though, is search engines. If you want to have some fun, go on your search engine, type in Veterans Aid and Attendance, and see how long it takes you to get to the the VA site. I went through 7 pages on my browser before I came up against something that wasn't a commercial helper organization enterprise. So search engines are one, and apparently Denny's is another one, Ray.
Pre-pandemic Denny's.
Pre-pandemic Denny's, yeah. So that's kind of it.
Thank you, Neil. That's helpful. Are you sick of talking about this scam since it's been 13 years, or?
No, I'm still mad about talking about it. You know,
but hopeful. It sounds like.
Well, hopeful, yeah. I mean, I think it requires sort of a multi-pronged approach. We've had really strong success in California with legislation, with enforcement, both some good criminal cases in California, and even though one of them resulted in being reversed on appeal, it had an immensely sobering effect on the insurance industry here. So it's law enforcement, it's civil attorneys, it's regulation, it's nonprofits, such as IOA or Canner, who help move the ball forward. So I think it's constantly evolving.
Great.
So one comment we did get from someone was that sometimes one of the hooks of these, what did Joe say? The fraud facilitators, which I really like, instead of helpers.
I like that.
Fraud facilitators is that they say the application is so detailed and difficult that they'll probably get delayed if there's any errors. So that's why they should help them with it.
Yeah, and that's a standard pitch that financial predators give seniors. It's, we have all the answers. This is what we do. They know us. They're afraid of us. And you don't know anything about this. And so if you go into this unprepared, you're going to lose. If you associate yourself with us, you're going to win. So yeah, that's very true, Tammy.
And I do want to I'm just going to do a couple more. So one also said that at least one of these companies is located in Puerto Rico. What it may be the advantage for them to be located there? And then sometimes they don't charge up front, but require the veteran to pay a percentage of their compensation from the VA for 1 year if they're approved, with kind of like a contingency arrangement. Is that illegal? Seems illegal.
I don't know. Chantel, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, let's if we could let's wait till the panelists give their remarks, and then we'll, because these questions are outstanding, but I feel like our panelists might be covering some of these questions.
Okay.
But thank you, Neil. Thank you so much for that overview. Also, everyone on this Zoom, this isn't to cover every nook and cranny of this scam. This is more of an intro to it. So if you have questions that come up, please use us as resources. I'm about to type to a couple people who have asked questions. Please email or call me directly, and I'm going to put my phone number and email. But I speak for our panelists. Maybe I shouldn't, but I think they want to be resources too. So if there's a question that we can't answer through the Veterans Benefits Protection Project, we will ask the right people and get an answer for you. But don't feel like you need to walk away from this being an expert in pension poaching scams. This is really to pique your interest and to get you knowing how to recognize them. So Chantel, and I'm gonna read Chantel's bio. So this is the first time I'm confident in saying this, that we've had either an assistant attorney general or a special assistant U.S. attorney on a webinar. We're very excited to have Chantel Smith. She has been an assistant attorney general in the Consumer Protection Division of the Iowa Attorney General's office. And she also serves as a special United States attorney. She has been with the AG's office for 20 years and focuses on issues affecting older Iowans and veterans. In addition to handling nonprofit and charitable trust matters, she heads the state's Abuse and Later Life Coordinated Community Response Team and also represents the state long-term care ombudsman's office. Chantel is a member of the Iowa Supreme Court Access to Justice Committee and serves as co-chair of the Veterans Work Group. She is a graduate of the University of Iowa College of Law. I was thinking back, Chantel, to something you said in a Bloomberg article last year written by Nick Lieber. You said that your phone was ringing off the hook, receiving calls from people who've been scammed by businesses. A lot of times in our field, in the elder abuse prevention field, people think of elder abuse in a certain very specific way, and it's generally family members abusing their older family members. But we see a lot of this abuse happening by professionals, at the hands of professionals and businesses as well. And you talked about in that article how lethal that is. How it literally will kill these elders when they lose their money. We're talking about application fees for a benefit that are in the range of $800 to $2,500, but for some elders, that's all the money they have. And if they end up not getting a veteran's pension benefit and they just gave away all their money, it's lethal. So I just wanted to say that, like, we're talking about a specific scam, but this is a scam that could causes a lot of pain and suffering, and sometimes can result in an elder's death. So I just wanted to set the stage there. and also to let you guys know that Chantel is amazing and also was quoted in a Bloomberg article. So Chantel, if you could talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing at the Iowa Attorney General's office, and also because you have in the past voiced maybe some of your frustrations and maybe about where you think we could go with this, and who we could get to partner so that we could finally make a dent in this 13-year-old crisis.
Well, thank you, Shauna, for the kind words. And I want to start by saying, when Shauna asked me to speak today, I actually said to her, "Isn't there someone else you might like to have? Because I don't have anything nice to say." And, you know, I own that. That's my truth. You know, I have criticism I can lodge at myself, and certainly enough criticism to lodge across the board to government in general. And I don't make any bones about it, because I do see that it kills people. And it isn't, you know, not having the money is a big deal. When you don't have a lot of assets, what you have becomes very significant. And choosing how you are going to live your life and where you're going to live it, especially towards the end of your life, is a very critical thing for human beings. But beyond the money, the doubt that it causes in a person's mind, not just their own, but with family members and others who view them now as not able to make good decisions, and look what you did, and you know, you got defrauded. That's like nails on a chalkboard for me when people say that. She got taken, she was taken, she was, you know, it's re-victimizing people is what it is, and it kills them. And I watch them sit and stew on that. So to me, this isn't just a consumer protection issue where we say, you know, how do we get the dollars back? That's important. We all know that it's hard to get those dollars back. What really kills me is watching the light go out of the people who are victimized by these scammers. And, you know, it's funny, Shauna, that you say most people think about abuse, family members abusing others, and that's their picture of abuse. And in my experience, what we struggle with is seeing more of it coming in on the business side, and the phones do ring off the hook for scams and other untoward acts by businesses against older Iowans. And so, you know, we have that sort of dynamic there of we're trying to get people to see that there's more than just financial exploitation by organizations. There's also exploitation by family members. But the trick to that, the twist, is getting people to see that the exploitation by the scammers like these is a real thing. It is not a civil case. I mean, it can be a civil case, but it is not just civil. This isn't just, you know, I went to Costco, I paid my money, and I knew I want my money back. That it is deeper than that. So that's what we struggle with. And I'll tell you, you know, we walk a fine line when it comes to the long-term care facilities, especially in Iowa. It's a very strong industry, and I'll go so far as to say they write the rules. You know, nursing homes are a regulated industry, assisted livings are regulated, but they are a very strong industry with very strong lobbyists. And I like to point out to the legislators when I get an opportunity, you know, the victims in these cases, they don't get to knock on your door. They don't get to come into your office and have these conversations like the lobbyists for industry do. So that's frustrating to me. And when I have conversations with facilities, and honestly, you know, as of late with COVID, most of my conversations with facilities have been on, yeah, no, you as the rep pay, you don't get to take the stimulus check, and no, you don't get to open all of the mail of residents and deny them the right to see their mail. Those are the conversations I've been having lately. But in the past, very frustrated that when I talk to the head of a facility about generating leads, and, you know, I say to them, these are not commodities in your building. These are human beings. They are customers. They are consumers. And the response to me, one that sticks in my head to this day, is the head of the facility looks at me and says, "Come on, it's dormitories for old people." You know, and I think, wow, we are screwed up. We are backwards, messed up, crazy. And I think it's, to your question about who should we partner with, what kind of partnerships should we have to start getting at this? Number one, I think it has to be the long-term care industry. And I think this is a good time to do it. You know, kudos, more than kudos to the folks who are showing up for work in the facilities, doing their best, you know, from top to bottom. There are plenty of good ones, there are some bad ones, but much kudos to them. But they are going to be open to criticism. They're going to be subject to, I think, some looking into these facilities that wasn't occurring before. But now I think is a good time for us to start bringing them into the fold and not treating them as though it's us versus them. We have to start talking about this with them. We have to start changing the way, we have to start changing the model of long-term care, in my opinion. We're very much in a medical model where these folks are treated, in fact, like commodities instead of consumers, instead of the customers that they are. And when we see the veterans cases come in, you know, what I most often hear about are those loans. And you end up with someone who cannot pay it back. And if they do pay it back, then they're going to do without basic things. And they had no idea. And it's frustrating to me, you know, great that we, as an Attorney General's office, that we've got the Consumer Fraud Act and we have the ability to go in there and make noise that way. But it's an awfully tough row to hoe. And, you know, Sean and I have had this conversation in the case that I did most recently, where it was an insurance agent and the attorneys, just like Neil was talking about. I told Sean, it took me 2 months to figure out, to get a definitive answer. And even then, I wouldn't call it definitive, that they could not charge for what they were doing. It seemed simple to me, but I was flabbergasted by the fact that all of the contacts I made to the feds, nobody could give me a solid, like, you are gold, woman, go forward. Nobody would do it. And I think that's me in a privileged position, and with an education and with some, you know, on some days it's pretty minuscule, but some clout behind my name to call people up and say, I need an answer. So what is a lay person doing? You know, no wonder they're confused when their own government doesn't give them solid information. And the VA on the state level and the federal level, you know, they do good things too, but come on already. You know, this is not hard stuff. I mean, we need the information out there. It needs to be clear. People need to get good information. And when I'm talking to consumers and their families who have been put in these situations, veterans and their family members, you know, they're saying to me, we'll just pay the money. It's easier to pay the money. That is not okay. Why is that the answer? That they are just exhausted from the process, and they don't know that they can go to the county office because they haven't gotten that information. They don't even know there's an aid and attendance benefit, which blows my mind. They certainly don't know that there's a county office they can walk to and get good guidance for free, and that's where they need to be. So, you know, I think information, we're always fighting that, right? That's always our big fight, is how do we get education? How do we get people educated? How do we get information out there? But that is key. And I think it's time to start leaning on the state and federal veterans folks to get in there with us. You know, when you call them up, you know, they care. They want, you know, they're usually a veteran themselves. They do care. So getting them to sort of get in the fight with us. And then I think it's essential that we get the long-term care industry involved in discussions and stop treating them like, well, they're just over there doing bad things and our job is to police it. They are members of the community. They need to get on board. That's my 2 cents.
Well, this is exactly why we wanted you on this panel, Chantel. Your passion, your insights, your thoughts on the direction we need to head in, it's all there. One thing I just want to ask you, in your experiences of these cases, one thing that comes up again and again is that a lot of times these helper organizations or fraud facilitators, as Joe Kreitz has suggested we call them, are accredited by the VA. Did you notice that in your cases as well?
You know, the one that we did most recently, her application was pending for accreditation and had been pending for 3 or more years. And it was still pending while we were going after her.
Okay.
So here's the problem though with the feds is when we called up and said, here, we've got this going on. I'm not talking out of turn. The response to me from a high level person in the administration was, we need you to handle this for us because we don't have any enforcement authority. Again, not okay. And how is it that in this country, in the year 2020, which, you know, has been a gigantic fiasco at this point anyway, but in 2020, how do we end up at the point where we have a federal agency that's job is to assist veterans and they don't have any enforcement authority? They're looking to the state to do that. I just don't have an answer for it other than to say, you know, shame on us. Shame on us as a government and as a society that this is acceptable. And it's not that hard. This is not that hard to fix. And when you think about it, when you put this stuff out there, we dealt with some state legislation 2-3 years ago. You have to be a fool to stand up in that room and say no. Let's be honest about it. So I'm just, it disappoints me. But the feds don't have any, they do not have any enforcement authority.
Okay. It sounds like they need it. And that might be something that we can push for. And I really appreciate what you said about being in your position, a position of authority. We consider you in a position of authority for sure. What is an elder to do? Well, an elder who contacted us about one of these groups ended up paying money, didn't qualify, did exactly what you said your clients tend to do. I'll just pay it. I showed him what he would need to do to report this to the VA, and he said no way.
Yeah.
It was complicated. His name was going to be given over to the company, and he just said no. And so to think of the elders, how many elders are taking that route? And I mean, probably you and I would do the same thing.
And I think it's most of them. And you and I talked about it. You know, you asked how many complaints do we have coming in right now, and it's really none, which frightens me.
Yeah.
And you know, we all know you gotta address your basic needs first before you get to the rest of it. And right now people are in survival mode. So they're letting things go. And on top of the actual older person themselves, when you have a family member involved, that's what happened in our case too. We ended up with no witnesses because the family member said, you know, if this becomes public and I have to talk about it, my siblings are going to kill me.
Right.
Which is, you know, goes back to my point of we have to nip this in the bud on the front end. The scammers know, they're smart. They know the dynamics here. They play the dynamics. So we'll never win that game.
Right. They know
that
get
up there at the front.
And they know that shame's going to kick in too.
Yeah.
When the elder has a decision to make. Yeah. Well, again, Chantel, all of this, I think we're getting comments. Someone said, preach, Chantel. So you're really hitting a nerve, the right nerve. And we're going to continue in this fight with you. Neil, your camera popped back on. Did you have something to add? Sorry to put you on the spot. Okay. Because you've also heard reports of elders, once they talk about reporting, even if they figure out where to report, the scammers threatening them. And we see this in other scam situations all the time, but I just heard about it last week. An elder's family member saying they wanted to report, and the scammer saying, yeah, you go ahead, acting as if, well, what generally happens is then the scammer will, after telling the elder that everything they did was legit, say, oh, actually what you were trying to do is against the rules, and now the government's going to go after you.
Right. And you know, you and I have talked about the fact, I assume this is happening in California as well. People are actually showing up at their door, actual people knocking on the door, which, you know, having someone see your house on the internet is one thing. Having them at your door is another thing. And then, you know, you add to it that the federal approach has been to actually send people letters saying you are a money mule, or, you know, I mean, that's what it's been lately. You're a money mule and you're committing a federal offense.
Yeah.
Deep dive into the dark.
Right,
You know,
right.
it's like we're not getting them to come out now. And I
Right.
understand why they're doing it, but we, you know, we have to be cognizant of those things, and we have to work together, all levels of government and the community across the board, businesses, everyone has to work together to get on the same page here.
Right, right. Well, we've come to the end of our webinar, and as usual, we could go on, and I wish we could, but I hope everyone understands that this is just a taste, and hopefully this has piqued your interest and you've learned a lot from our panelists. I certainly have. We don't want this to just be a deep dive into the dark, as Chantel put it, but also to see some kind of light at the end of the tunnel. Although it's very important to see that deep end of the situation as well. So thank you all again. Thank you for your comments. They're really encouraging, and we appreciate that as well. Because we didn't get to all questions, we want to get to all your questions. So please, if we didn't answer, and if I don't reach out to you directly because I don't have your number, please contact us. You can contact me through my email or my phone number. Tammy put the website up in the chat, but we want to make sure that we get to all your questions, and we'd also love for you to be in this fight with us because we can't do it alone. Thanks again to Catlin Morgan, Tammy Donnie, and Glenn Fishman, and all our panelists, Chantel, Neil, and Ray. And thank you for listening. Okay, that's it. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.